Imagine if you're standing at this intersection, you see police officers violently subduing an individual, and you reach into your pocket, pull out your cell phone, and start recording it. Perfectly within your rights, correct? Well, that's what John Kurtz thought. He wound up spending 30 days in jail for doing just that.
I was at a private party and just sort of hanging out and having some fun with my girlfriend. And I looked over the balcony and saw a lot of flashing lights over here on the corner of Church and Orange. So I took the elevator down, walked across the courtyard here, walked across the street, and to see what was going on.
And what was going on was some Orlando police officers involved in the violent arrest of an individual, all of which was happening in the midst of a huge New Year's Eve street party. Kurtz pulled out his camera, crossed the street through the crowd.
They were hitting them, and it was a very violent incident. So I stood, and that was happening right about the middle of the street here. So I stood here on the sidewalk for a little bit with my video camera and filmed it. As it seemed to get a little more violent, I sort of walked around like this, maybe about 6 to 7 feet away from them, and I said, "Guys, calm down, you're being recorded."
So Kurtz had announced what he was doing for everyone's safety. He was out of the officer's way. Now keep in mind, lots of people on the street, not just Kurtz, but he was the one videotaping their actions. Kurtz demonstrates how at that point Officer Gruller grabbed him and pushed him back from the scene. Kurtz continued to shoot, now from a distance of about 20 feet, but lots of people were walking between where he was standing and where the arrest was taking place. He stepped back into the road to get a better camera angle, still well out of the officer's way. And again, says Gruller rushed over, pushed him further back, more physically this time. Kurtz voiced his objection to being manhandled.
He turned back, grabbed me, sort of tossed me around like that, and kind of flailed me around. I wasn't resisting at all. So when they slammed me to the ground, I was like this. As Officer Gruller grabbed my arm to put it behind my back, I let go of my camera, just sort of placed it like that. That was the last I ever saw the camera or heard of it.
However, a Big Brother camera sits right above that intersection. Kurtz claims he was told multiple times it was for surveillance only, not recording. It was indeed recording that night. This video, posted on YouTube, is very dark, difficult to see what's happening, but it was enough to help Kurtz get acquitted of a felony charge of battery on a police officer. Yes, that was one of the 3 charges brought against Kurtz.
I asked him, "What are you arresting me for?" And he said, "Battery on a law enforcement officer." And I kind of laughed at first, and I said, "What the hell are you talking about?" So it was funny at first, but it turned out not being very funny. But finally, after 7 days in jail, they finally let me out. This is 5 days after my bond had been approved. They finally let me out. When I get out of jail, I come to find out that my camera is mysteriously disappeared, and supposedly there is no street camera. Eventually, we found out that they did have the tape, and in fact, they had called Officer Adam Gruller, my arresting officer, that same night, within an hour of him arresting me, telling him, "Hey, we have this on tape, you better come take a look at it." Even though there was over 1,000 people on the street that night, and the story was pretty well publicized, nobody came forward to my defense. I asked around. I even went so far as to hire a private investigator to try to find me witnesses and things like that, and nobody surfaced.
Another video surfaced that could have helped his cause. This one, also found on YouTube, shows Officer Gruller arresting another person who was videotaping him. A television photographer working for Orlando's WFTV Channel 9.
I thought that was very clear evidence that he had a pattern of arresting people just for videotaping him and nothing else. That was not allowed at the trial. Judge Apt, I forget exactly why he said it was not allowed, but Judge Apt did not allow that in.
You came up, you had no lights and sirens on or nothing.
The prosecution did a very good job of getting rid of anybody on the jury who seemed to be of a liberty mindset, who seemed to be constitutional. One of the questions my lawyer asked during jury selection, is anybody here an advocate of the First Amendment? And the Judge Apt made told the jury to disregard that question, said that we cannot discuss the Bill of Rights during jury selection. So essentially the Bill of Rights was banned from jury selection. Also, when we tried to make arguments in trial about freedom of speech, that was also stricken from the record. So we could make no constitutional arguments during trial. I was found not guilty of battering a law enforcement officer, yet still found guilty and given virtually the maximum sentence for resisting arrest without violence. My arresting officer, Adam Grueller, testified that I did not resist arrest. He testified to this, which I thought would clear me until after closing statements, or it was during closing statements. The judge instructed the jury. The Judge App told the jury that because I walked up to the scene with a video camera and told the officers, calm down, you're being videotaped, because the act of me doing that was a form of obstructing a police officer, which is a form of resisting arrest without violence. Which is not true. The First Amendment of the United States Constitution clearly states that, as well as Article 1, Section 4 of the Florida Constitution. However, so essentially, in essence, what the judge did is tell the jury that I'm guilty, that I broke the law. That's, in essence, what happened. I was surprised at the 30-day sentence. This was my first offense. I've never been convicted of a crime before. The only thing, I was charged with a disorderly conduct once, and that case was dropped. So that was the only thing on my record. And for him to stick me in jail for 30 days for resisting arrest without violence, even though the thing I originally got arrested for, supposedly, I turned out to be not guilty of, to me was really over the top. And beyond that, when he gave me an additional year of probation, and a condition of my probation being I cannot go within 100 feet of a police officer, it was very clear to me that he was just trying to end my participation in Orlando Cop Watch and try to punish me for being an activist. It eliminates my participation in Orlando Cop Watch, which I founded, which I built up with my blood, sweat, and tears, literally. And I have to take a break. But I will be back on the streets as soon as this probation is over.
And high over the streets of downtown Orlando, the American flag proudly flies with its promise of liberty and justice for all. Below it, an intersection where one may question if justice was served in the case of John Kurtz. For QuestionableThings.com, I'm Larry Blucher.